Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of The World of Averant. Now, we've talked lots about the past in our long story. We talked about the time before Campaign 1, about the plague, about the gods, and how about the world and all the realms that were created. And then we decided to switch talk over to our characters of Campaign 1. Talked about our chosen, Seraphina. Her sword, Valerian. Her consort and warrior with much ways to make the group happy, Gladlin. But there are two others. A package deal. A pair that, very unlikely, were friends before the Great Journey, and they want to be part of it together. And they were an unusual pair. Fallen paths that are not known for what their race would have for them. This episode is called Ying Friends, so that's what they based off their characters of. Polar opposites of each other, but opposites also of what is expected of them. Both already in the kingdom of Heartwind. These were the two that were chosen from within the kingdom's borders instead of outwards. Valerian was chosen as the guardian of the Everest kingdom. Gladlin, the guardian of the Nelitharian kingdom. And there were two elves. Not from the Nelitharian kingdom, but born and raised in Heartwind. Friends together for a long time. And just like how Seraphina immediately saw Valerian as the unique one out of her race, Gladlin as the unique one out of his. These two are no different. In their aspects, they had many things in common, but it's what made them different from everyone else. Verithril, our drow, she decided to follow the way of the paladin and ways of the cleric, ways of radiance and light that drows don't usually envelop themselves in due to their weakness to sunlight. But she decided to follow the path of the righteous radiant knight. And her best friend, her good friend, Norin, well, he was a wood elf. And most of his family were ones of the light. It'd be expected of him to be a wizard, a cleric, any kind of standard magic user. But he decided to go the way of the darkness, pull in energy from the magic of a warlock. He grabbed his power from a dark god named Af that came one time and offered him an easier way to gain the power, and he accepted. One race that is usually of the dark, choosing magic of the light, and another one who clan and life was always in the light, decided to choose powers of the dark. But like many of our stories that we've had before, and much as my stories always continue to go on to be, a book should never be judged by its cover. Dark does not mean evil, light does not mean good. Doesn't matter what power or aspect of life you take. Personality can surprise everyone. And the one thing that they had in common was their ability to protect. Beatrice was trying forever to become a warrior, a true knight for Heartwind. Norrin did not see these kind of aspirations, decided to learn on his magics, but never really saw any reason to really join any order. If he did, maybe wizards, just other mages. But he supported her goal. But at this time, unfortunately, it was very difficult for a female to become a head knight or even one of the major knights. And this is Heartwind. Even though Heartwind was accepting of many different races, they weren't a big fan, or at least their soldiers weren't big fans, of promoting their enemy's kind to a higher status. Beatrice, no matter what her viewpoints of the war or anything, she was all intents and purposes still an elf. And unfortunately, that's the way she was seen. But she persevered and moved on. Norrin, supporting her, decided to always focus on inward. Smart enough to know never to really give fully in to Af. But also not knowing much about Af. Just knowing that power was granted upon him and was only doing the bare minimum requested to make sure that he had the power but not too many demands. Compared to many of our other stories of characters, not to put down anything less these two, but other than just shortcomings was brought in front of them, they didn't really have too much of a hard upbringing. They still had good lives. They lived within Nelithir, or not Nelithir, oh god, sorry, Heartwind. And they still lived within the castle walls. They still had a good life. But one always wants more, always strives to be seen. And that's what Beatrice wanted. She wanted to be seen, she wanted to be recognized, and she wanted to know that she was doing good for the sake of being good. Norrin's aspirations were nothing out of the ordinary. Practice magic, have a good life, support his friend. With the day of the second choosing of Guardians, which is a day that was the announcement of the firstborn, Seraphina. As I mentioned before, picking. She first locked eyes with Valerian, then locked eyes with Gladlin. And almost as she knew that these two were meant to be together and in a way that they could not be separated. Not romantically, but like brother and sister. She picked them both at once. This made things odder for a great journey. For a chosen one of a human kingdom deciding to at least to have 3 elves was almost set as a malnomer. Many people who already did not like the idea of Seraphina taking up the mantle of the chosen one for the humans already eventually just saw this as the beginning of the apocalypse. We're choosing a non-human to do our journey, and she is choosing our enemies as her allies. Not a single human. But that didn't mean anything to her. She didn't care of the races. She just cared about their allegiance. She saw that they were warriors of her father's kingdom. She didn't care about what they looked like. She didn't care about their ears or anything. She just knew by looking at them that they would be good friends and good guardians. And Seraphina could see that in people. And these two were useful, to say the least, to Seraphina. Like I said, you had the blade, Alair Valerian. You had the heart, Gladlin. But these two brought in something different, something unique, a certain kind of insight, a way of understanding their bits of magic that Gladlin would not know. Way to understand the gods to help out Seraphina. This was a journey after all, and this was a journey to commune with the gods. You have a paladin with you. And with this journey, she strived to understand more herself. And that's what Vietra wanted, was to understand more about the gods and understand her place in this world. But she also wanted the adventure. She saw it as multiple birds, one stone, so to speak. An adventure, a way to gain title, new friends, a family, and knowledge. And what more could anybody ask for? And Norn was on for the ride. He understood the purpose of the great journey, but he never really expected to be a guardian. But as saying, he wanted to follow Vietra. Now, in our stories, these two are brought up consistently, even after Campaign 1, in Campaign 2, Campaign 3, and Campaign 1.5. These two are brought up consistently. Now, the others are too, but these two are always brought up because of their impact. Maybe not at the beginning of Campaign 1, but near the end. Now, I don't want to spoil it for you, but you guys, obviously, if you watch 1.5 and 3 that are on it now, their influence that they have on the world is nothing to be snarked at. Now, the interesting thing of each one of them, Norin, he took the way of the warlock, but he demanded not to go in the way of evil. And he knew where the line was drawn. He knew that he could still give things to this dark god. And he didn't mind what it would lead, as long as it was for protection. Called him naive, but in the grand scheme of things, he would sacrifice his own to protect the rest. What more can you ask for from a guardian? Vietra, being a paladin and a cleric, obviously she saw visions, seeing glimpses of things that even would include her own death. And for most, that forced a guardian to leave. But she persevered on, knowing that if she would die, she would do it for the chosen one, and she would do it for the greatness of the realm. A paladin through and through. These two, their stories before Campaign 1 are simple. But to grab a guardian that already has another with them, two people at the same time that you can rely on. That's how we started off our story. Legitimately at the first episode that we did, it was legitimately Seraphina picking her guardians. Now obviously, the players were already there, but I would believe that in the situation that this was real life, they would have still been picked. Characters were unique. They still are. They might be the embodiment of exactly what you would expect. I mean, other than the race, paladin, cleric, she's wearing thick armor, being less stealthy, but still being an honorable knight. The warlock, ever so getting for more powerful items and accepting the curses as long as it's more power. But on paper, that's what they sound like. But as they are played, they're completely different. And it hurts me, and this is my own, that I did not do the streaming thing justice in campaign 1. Because it was a great campaign, and our players did a great job. But that's why I'm doing this now. So I can explain the fantastic story. We didn't stream all of it, and when we did, we were new to streaming. And God, were we bad. This was a fun combo between these two. Legitimately flipping character norm on its head to do the opposite of what is expected. The story has a great turn and twist. Their overall look on life, they were able to push through. The two of them each had their purpose, their calling. They chose it and they grabbed it. They knew it was ahead of them and they decided to push their way through. Now, normally these episodes go half an hour, 40 minutes. I'm not trying to put these two characters as anything of short, but it is short and sweet. Compared to the others, they did not have a huge dramatic backstory. Just two elves that were in the human kingdom and maybe just didn't get the appreciation that they deserved. And they decided to earn it. Take it. Now, the story coming up is going to follow this group moving ahead through Averant, trying to learn things. And like I said, if you've watching the current campaigns, you know how it ends. But you are obviously confused about these people. And exactly, unless I decide to say you don't understand a little bit of the backstory that leads it to this point. Here's a good one. So, short and sweet. Fairtrill, Norin, Ying friends, Paladin and Warlock. Next week, we'll start off with the first 3 episodes of Campaign 1, going over the adventure before the adventure. What happened with the group after they joined together before they officially left the castle walls. We'll officially be starting narrating the story that we played together. Every session, I will probably go anywhere between half an hour to an hour and go about 3 episodes long. Getting through the nitty gritty and giving you a good narration of the story. Oh, and it's good. And between so many episodes, we'll do more character bios like this. But I want to make sure we talk about the playable characters first. Afterwards, I will talk about some NPCs that we've passed through them, since a lot of the NPCs that are in this story are also in some of the other campaigns. So you can understand them as well. So, that being said, this is the world of Averant. Check us out next Friday for the beginning of the great journey.